over 300 million USD, just to build a hotel 90 meters deep underground. It sounds so absurd it could be a joke, but this is actually one of the most expensive and ambitious resort projects China has ever created. Instead of building another skyscraper like in Dubai or Singapore, they chose to challenge nature itself, transforming an abandoned quarry with sheer cliff walls and a dangerous deep lake into a luxurious five-star hotel clinging to the rock face. Part of the hotel is even built below the waterline, where guests can sleep right beside schools of fish swimming behind thick, reinforced glass. Why would China pour money into a location that seems impossible to build on? And how did they manage to shock the world by turning a massive, ruined pit into a stunning architectural masterpiece? The story behind it gets even crazier, and you'll hardly believe that it actually became reality. China was once known as the ultimate master of copying, collecting famous architectural icons of the world, from a mini Eiffel Tower, the pyramids, and Venice, all the way to its own version of Disneyland. But this time, they refused to stay in anyone's shadow. They set out to create a project that no other country had ever dared to build. No more replicas. They wanted to create a true megastructure with their own identity. And the bold move started with the location itself. A massive quarry over 100,000 square meters, hidden in the Shishan mountain range, about 30 kilometers from Shanghai. It was an abandoned mine with sheer vertical cliffs in fractured geology and a deep, cold, murky lake that stayed flooded year-round. A place engineers considered a construction nightmare, where every big design proposal was rejected from the moment it was imagined. But China chose that exact spot to push every limit. Instead of avoiding the risks, they committed to turning this so-called no-build zone into a new landmark that would force the world to rethink what's possible. The hotel's full name is Intercontinental Shanghai Wonderland, a project envisioned by Shimao Group in collaboration with the famous design firm Atkins back in 2006. Even though it's only 18 stories tall, its structure is completely unique, and it took 12 years to finally complete this extraordinary build. Out of those 18 floors, 2 sit above ground, 14 are built along the quarry walls, and 2 are fully submerged underwater, creating a one-of-a-kind resort experience. However, designing a structure that essentially hangs inside a quarry wasn't easy at all. More than 5,000 engineers and specialists spent 7 years just to finalize the design. However, even a perfect design means nothing if the ground beneath it isn't safe. The moment engineers stepped down into the quarry, they truly realized the scale of the challenge. The entire construction site sat on a mixed geological foundation, where solid basalt was interlaced with loose rock that could crumble with just a squeeze. Even a small rock slide from the cliff face could turn this hundreds million-dollar project into a disaster. That's why the first step wasn't pouring foundations or installing steel frames. It was a full geological survey of the entire pit. Hundreds of exploratory drill holes were carried out to map fractures and determine the stability of every section of the rock wall. Once the geological map was completed, the construction team had to perform controlled blasting, removing all loose and unstable rock, clearing the site and creating a surface strong enough to anchor the structure behind it. Only after the quarry was stabilized and cleaned could the actual construction truly begin. Just when it seemed like things could finally move forward smoothly, reality hit even harder. The bottom of the nearly 90-meter-deep pit was completely isolated. The only access was a narrow zigzag walkway, barely wide enough for a few workers to pass through. It was absolutely useless for transporting massive steel coils, heavy machinery weighing tons, and the constant flow of construction materials needed on site. If they continued moving everything by hand, the project could have been delayed for years, or even become impossible to complete. Forced to find a new solution, the engineers decided to build a temporary elevator system directly on the vertical cliff face. To secure this hanging structure, they used large cranes along with support beams up to 15 meters long, drilled deep into the rock to create a stable anchor point for continuous transport. Only when this system was fully operational could the first loads of materials finally be lowered to the bottom of the quarry. setting the stage for an even tougher challenge ahead. To hang an 18-story structure onto a cliff wall, the first priority was to transform the naturally loose rock face into a vertical foundation strong enough to carry the load. The engineers began by drilling deep into the mountainside and installing 99 massive steel anchors, each up to 35 meters long, around the rim of the quarry, acting like the main lock hooks holding the entire structure in place. But that alone wasn't enough. More than 6,500 additional reinforcement rods were driven about 10 meters into the rock to bind the layers of basalt and loose rubble together, forming a unified mass and reducing the risk of landslides to the lowest level possible. Next, the entire cliff surface was covered with a thick steel mesh, creating a tightly woven network that worked like metal stitches, essentially sewing the whole rock face together. Finally, over 5,860 square meters of shotcrete was sprayed across the surface, forming a solid protective shell that prevented loose rocks from falling throughout the construction process. Pouring the foundation, normally a routine step in any construction project, became the biggest technical challenge of this hotel built nearly 90 meters underground. In a typical project, concrete is pumped horizontally or down a gentle slope. But here, an enormous volume of concrete had to drop straight down from the surface to the bottom of the pit. This created a huge risk. If the mixture fell too fast, it would separate, clump up, and turn into concrete bullets, shooting through the pipe, damaging equipment, and ruining the entire foundation. Stuck with no obvious solution, the Chinese engineers had to think differently. They adjusted the ratios of cement, sand, and stone to make the mix more flexible, added special additives for better cohesion, and made sure the concrete could withstand the stress of falling through a vertical pipe. Next, they installed a shock-absorbing system to slow the flow and keep the mixture stable. But the real breakthrough was the creation of spiral-shaped intermediate mixing stations placed every 15 meters along the pipe. At each level, the concrete was remixed during its descent, preventing clumping and keeping the mixture uniform. After many rounds of testing, the solution finally worked. Thanks to this system, 50,000 imber 3 of concrete was delivered to the bottom of the quarry in perfect condition. No separation, no clumping, fully meeting the standards needed for a solid foundation in one of the most ambitious construction projects ever built. Stabilizing the foundation was only the first step. A far more silent and unpredictable danger still threatened this suspended structure: earthquakes. The Shanghai area sits near several geological fault lines, where small tremors happen regularly and stronger quakes are always a possibility. For a normal building, shaking might crack the foundation or twist the steel frame. But for a structure fixed to both the top and bottom of a nearly 100-meter deep pit, the risk was far more serious. If the upper and lower parts of the hotel were pulled in opposite directions during a quake, the entire structure could twist, shear, or crack at its connection points. Just a few seconds of violent shaking could undo years of engineering work and destroy a project worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Instead of trying to lock every component rigidly in place, the Chinese engineers took the opposite approach. They designed the building so it could move. Borrowing principles from earthquake-resistant bridge design, they created a main suspended steel frame anchored deep into the rock walls, but added special sliding metal plates at the joints where horizontal beams meet the foundation. When the ground shakes, these plates allow the beams to shift slightly, acting like flexible joints that let the building move with the earthquake instead of resisting it. This movement helps absorb and dissipate seismic energy, preventing dangerous force from transferring directly into the structure. With this system, the hotel can withstand earthquakes of up to magnitude 7, a level of protection rarely achieved by cliffside structures anywhere in the world. Solving the earthquake problem still wasn't the final challenge. At the bottom of the quarry, the engineers faced an even bolder requirement: building 2 full floors completely underwater. This meant dealing not only with geological pressure from the rock walls, but also with the massive water pressure from the artificial lake surrounding the structure. If any part wasn't strong or sealed enough, even the smallest crack could flood the entire space. Instead of using regular underwater windows, the team chose to turn these rooms into giant viewing tanks, where guests could watch fish swim right beside their beds. That meant every panel had to be crystal clear for a perfect viewing experience, yet strong enough to withstand tons of constant water pressure. After extensive testing, the engineers decided on specialized acrylic panels, the same material used in major public aquariums. Each sheet is about 4.5 meters long, 3 meters wide, and weighs nearly 2 tons. Their thickness allows water pressure to spread evenly across the surface instead of concentrating at weak points. These massive acrylic panels were set into reinforced steel frames, locked in place with high-strength concrete, and then sealed with a waterproof epoxy layer. The curing and bonding process took around 3 months to fully complete, ensuring that not a single drop of water could seep into the rooms inside. If building underwater had already stunned the engineering world, an issue that seemed small turned out to be the most dangerous threat of all: rainwater. Because the hotel sits deep at the bottom of a quarry, lower than the entire surrounding area, it has no natural drainage. Just one heavy storm could raise the lake level rapidly, putting massive pressure directly on the 2 underwater floors and the entire acrylic window system. Over more than a decade of research, engineers had to invent solutions that had never existed in construction before, resulting in 39 new patents. One of the most critical systems is an active drainage network made up of 4 high-capacity pumps paired with smart water level sensors. These sensors constantly monitor the lake and automatically activate the pumps whenever the water rises above the safe limit. Controlling the water level was only one part of the safety challenge. The hotel's structure itself needed an additional protective layer that was both symbolic and highly functional. That solution became the massive glass waterfall installed between the 2 main building blocks, where the scenic elevator travels the full height of the hotel. To create the effect of a crystal waterfall flowing down the cliff, engineers installed more than 5,000 tornmeres of frameless glass, each panel curved to match the quarry's irregular shape. Every piece was individually engineered for load-bearing strength, able to withstand wind, vibrations, and pressure differences between interior zones. But this beauty brought a serious complication. Inside a deep quarry, any fire or explosion could trap guests with no easy escape. Because of that, the safety system had to meet extremely strict standards. The interior includes 8 emergency exits, 4 dedicated fire elevators, and 4 special escape stairwells, allowing people to reach the ground level directly. In addition, a large evacuation platform was built right in front of the central lake. This area acts as a temporary gathering point during emergencies, before guests exit through a staircase constructed along the left rock wall. The result is a unique evacuation route designed specifically to fit the hotel's unusual position, suspended deep within the quarry. Few people would have believed that a place once filled with blasting explosions and clouds of quarry dust could become a calm, turquoise lake welcoming luxury travelers. The hotel officially opened in 2018 with 337 high-end rooms, stretching from hanging gardens near the rim of the pit all the way to spaces built entirely underwater, offering an experience almost no other destination can replicate. The most stunning feature is the underwater suites. In a typical hotel, the most expensive rooms are on the top floors with sweeping views of the city, ocean, or mountains. But here, the most luxurious suite lies deep beneath the lake. The 2-level underwater presidential suite has an upper floor overlooking the cliffside waterfall, while the lower level functions like a private mini aquarium, complete with its own fish tank, panoramic underwater views, and 24/7 butler service, creating a feeling that's both intimate and surreal. The surrounding landscape has also been transformed. A clear artificial lake wraps around the base of the building, a waterfall pours down from the top of the quarry, and lush greenery along the rockside pathways makes the area feel more like an eco-resort hidden in the mountains than a once-abandoned quarry. Prices for this one-of-a-kind experience range from $10,000 to $20,000 per night. But for many guests, lying in bed while watching the underwater world move right in front of them is an experience that feels priceless. From a seemingly useless pit to a landmark that made the world stop and stare, the creation of this hotel proves how far humans can go when they turn limitations into opportunities. It reflects not only the power of engineering and innovation, but also the ambition to build something far beyond traditional boundaries. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like and follow Mandarin Tech for more incredible megastructures and engineering wonders.